You're listening to the SSPX podcast, and on today's Apostolate Focus, another bonus episode, we're speaking with Mr. Mike Banschbach, who runs a prison ministry out of Midland, Texas.
So Aaron came, kept coming to our Monday classes. A few months later, he wants to be baptized. 2-3 months goes by, and guess who is serving the Latin Mass at the Smith unit? Aaron.
Mike's work and the efforts of Father Katzaroff, as well as the faithful at St. Michael the Archangel Chapel, have provided some really awe-inspiring stories, as you'll hear in the next 30 minutes or so. And far from being forgotten, these inmates are receiving the faith and the sacraments, not to mention love and support, many for the first time in their lives.
Father Katzaroff made a great analogy. The holy souls in purgatory, you have a lot in common with them because many people forget the holy souls in purgatory, just like you're forgotten. Nobody does anything for them, just like nobody does anything for you. And we look at our own situation, we have the freedoms that we do in this country, and then we think of those souls in purgatory and the men in prison that can't do anything for themselves, but we can. I mean, again, it would be ungrateful for all the gifts that we've received to do nothing.
In the show notes on your podcast app or program, we've listed the contact info for Mike and how to support the prison ministry, and please make sure you check that out. He's not asking only for money. If you have extra books or holy cards in your house, they could be of great use to people who want to learn more about the faith, but they're literally stuck. So enough of me, let's turn to our conversation with Mike. Well, welcome to the SSPX podcast, and we are speaking today with another guest and continuing our small series, and we will see how far it goes with interviewing different people who are doing different unique apostolates throughout the U.S. district and throughout the English-speaking world of the Society of St. Pius X. Very happy to have on the line today Mr. Michael Banschbach. Hello, Mike. How are you today?
Doing very well. Thank you, Andrew, for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. And we're talking with you today to talk about the prison ministry that you are helping with. So could you give us a little bit of background before we talk about that, where you're located and kind of what chapel you attend and all that good stuff?
Sure. I'm in Midland, Texas, which is about halfway between El Paso and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we have St. Michael the Archangel Chapel here in Midland. It's a mission of the Society of St. Pius X, served very faithfully by Father Katzaroff, who's located in Jesus and Mary Chapel in El Paso.
Fantastic. So you are, I'm here in Phoenix, and you're in the deserts of Texas. So we're both in areas that don't get a lot of rain all the time.
That is correct. We're about half our rainfall this year, and it certainly shows. So.
Yeah. I guess we'll just start from the very beginning. What is the apostolate that you are doing? I reached out to a couple of people at the district office and said, who should I be speaking with who's doing something interesting or unique that more people should know about? And Mr. Vogel, who's our communications director, immediately brought up your name and said, talk to Mike. So why should we be talking to you?
That's a good question. The prison apostolate is certainly not something that I've ever envisioned being involved in. And kind of the short and sweet of what it really involves is going to various prisons, at least for me, in West Texas, in person, and then responding to requests for good Catholic literature via mail that we mail out to virtually every prison in Texas.
Wow.
So we interact with people one-on-one or in groups in person in several different West Texas prisons, and then reached hundreds and probably thousands via mail. I've been doing this for about 12 years. So I keep a big spreadsheet of everybody that we've mailed stuff to. I'd have to see if that thousands is an accurate number, but we generally mail out about 50 packages of books a month. And
Wow.
I've been doing that for many years. So whatever the math adds up to on that one.
So you are primarily focused on sending things via the mail, good literature, good books, promoting the Catholic faith that way, but you're also visiting prisons in your local area in person.
Yes, and of course, we can't visit every prison in person. That would be a great thing to do because these men in prison are so poorly catechized, even more poorly than your average Catholic out there, that you can accomplish so much in 1 hour or 2 hours in person with them that it would take a while, via books. Nothing against books. They have to, we need those. They're
Sure.
there when we're not. But, a lot of these guys aren't tremendously well educated.
Right.
And, that one-on-one interaction is really impossible to duplicate.
I know you said at the get-go that you didn't really envision doing this prison apostolate, but there must have been something that got you started with it. It's a labor of love for you, I'm sure. So how did you get started doing this?
That's a great question as well. In May of 2008, I picked up the mail at the chapel, and there was a letter from a young man in Lamesa, Texas, which is about an hour drive north of Midland. And he, time was incarcerated at the Preston Smith unit. Somehow he had gotten St. Michael's address. We may have had some sort of ad in a newspaper, and maybe he picked up a newspaper at the prison and saw it. But he made this request for traditional Catholicism, the Latin Mass and that type of thing. And I had absolutely no intention of ever getting involved in the prison apostolate. It never came up. In fact, I interiorly chided another Catholic here in Midland, a Novus Ordo Catholic who was involved in the pro-life effort. I have headed up pro-life efforts in Midland for a while. And this particular man he was a deacon. He would show up when the bishop showed up, and otherwise you wouldn't see him. And I knew he was involved in the prison apostolate, so interiorly I kind of made fun of the prison apostolate because of this particular person, as he seemed to be a bit of a, when it's non-existent when we had pro-life activities, except when the bishop was there.
Right.
So this became my penance for having that uncharitable thought towards him, that I would receive this letter and read it and then respond to it by actually going up to Lamesa and meeting with this young man one-on-one, and that's how it all started.
Wow, that's fantastic. And once you start with doing something like that, it's hard to not keep going, especially when it comes to doing an apostolate like this, I guess.
Well, that's correct. I mean, how many of us have wished for, and maybe not seriously, but wished for the proverbial postcard from God telling you what to do. I mean, everybody struggles with, should I do this? Should I do that? What does God really want of me? That type of thing. And we wish we would get a letter or a postcard that laid it out. And not that I was asking for that, but that's what came.
Yeah.
And for me to simply pitch that letter in the trash and do nothing, would have been certainly the height of ingratitude from me for everything that I've received in my life. So I responded to that, met this young man in actually on July 4th of 2008. Interestingly enough, went through the training to become an approved volunteer, and then started going into the Preston Smith unit there in Lamesa in November of 2008.
Well, and not everyone would have had the grace or the fortitude, I guess, to do something about that letter. So good for you for doing that. I want to ask. You said that you go in and chat with these inmates one-on-one, and again, we'll get back to the mail order. I guess I'll call it the correspondence part of the ministry that you do. But I'd like to focus on the one-on-one interactions you have with some of these inmates. You must just have probably 100 hours of stories that you could tell, and we don't have 100 hours. What kind of response do you receive from these inmates? Let me, I guess, actually go back a little bit. Do you only correspond or start talking with people who have requested to talk with you, or do you go in and just kind of start chatting with anyone who's interested? And then what's that response like? Sure.
And it's actually a more formal than that. Not overly formal, but it's more formal than that. We have at the Smith unit every other Monday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. is our slot. Now, granted, with this virus situation, I've not been in the prisons in person since March. So otherwise, I would be going to the Smith unit on the first and third Mondays, starting at 5 o'clock, and sometimes we go till maybe 8 or 8:30. I will have prepared loosely. We'll call it a presentation. Normally, I'll talk about the epistle and the gospel from the preceding Sunday, and start with that. I'll supplement that with talks by, say, Fulton Sheen. So it'll be a combination of me, expounding on, sacred scripture with the use of, books like scripture commentaries like Cornelius a Lapide as a basis.
Sure.
And to instruct them in the Catholic faith, and then play an audio recording, so it's just not me. They're listening to Christ the King, Lord of History. We started that audio recording here a while back before we got shut down with the virus. So we play an episode of Christ the King, Lord of History, and if we had any discussion around that. So normally it's 2 to 2.5 hours. With a group anywhere from 10 to 50 or 60, and then fielding lots of questions, of course.
And are these, and is it a male-only prison? I was going to say these men, these gentlemen?
Yes.
Okay.
So the prisons that we interact with are male-only. We have mailed a few things out to a women's prison, but it's almost exclusively men.
Okay. So are these men, and I hate to assume that they wouldn't be interested, but I guess I'm going to. Are they coming to these conversations, these talks, these presentations that you're giving because they just want something to do and that's kind of their free time? Or are they coming because they're interested? And are you able to harness, even if it is the former, where they're just coming because there's really nothing else to do in prison, are you able to harness that and kind of turn that around into something a little more substantial?
You've got a great perception of the situation within the prison to ask that question, because you're right on both accounts. There are men that are serious about their faith. I mean, many of these men have effectively lost everything. Family has disowned them. They have no possessions. They owe money. They get no visitors, and some of them get no letters. So they have nothing, and they're finally, coming to grips with that. And what's left? Well, God is always there, and so they reach out for that, and they start to take the Catholic faith seriously. There are others that, because the gym is air conditioned and maybe their cell is not, they come to class so they can come into the air conditioned gym instead of stay in their cell.
Sure.
And there's some other nefarious things that happen, which we won't go into, but
right.
For reasons for getting out of their cell. So it's a mix, and the class grows because those that are serious encourage those that are maybe lukewarm, because religion is a very hot topic in prison. Oh. It's a biggie. And so it's much discussed, and so there's plenty of opportunity for evangelism within those prison walls.
Wow, that's fascinating. You mentioned that you are, due to your location and the SSPX wishes they could have a chapel in every place where there was one, but you attend a mission chapel, and it's serviced by El Paso. Father Katzaroff is doing fantastic work, but probably can't devote a ton of time to visiting the prisons along with you. Are there ever opportunities for any of the priests to come and give the sacraments, give Eucharist to any of these prisons?
Yes, and Father Katzaroff, who goes well above and beyond his priestly obligations. So he travels to Midland once a month. He'll say Mass for us in Midland Friday evening and then Saturday morning. And then after Mass on Saturday morning, we go to the Smith unit for confessions and Mass.
Oh, wow.
And that has yielded great fruit. We probably get anywhere from 60 to 100 attending the Mass. Now, some of them are out of curiosity.
Sure.
But he'll hear confessions, probably 30 to 35 confessions, which take an hour and 20 minutes. So during that time, I'm answering questions or expounding on sacred scripture, the gospel and the epistle for a nearby Sunday, that type of thing during the time when he is hearing confessions. And then we say the Mass. Father Katzaroff says the Mass, and one of the offenders is the acolyte, the server for the Mass. And then if he has time, he'll bless religious articles and give some instruction afterwards. So there's many times, we could be there for 3.5 hours, jam packed. And then we need to get back to Midland because he needs to get on a plane and fly back to El Paso. So he uses every available minute.
Well, that's wonderful. It's great that he's doing that, and it's great that you're coordinating all that for him. Getting back to the correspondence part of things, the sending out the religious items or the literature. Are you working with Angelus Press on that? Are you needing to purchase those things? Does the prison purchase them? Do the inmates purchase them? How do you? And towards the end, we always ask, how can people support your apostolate? So we'll get there, but how does that all work? Because this all costs money, and Angelus Press can't just give away things or.
Well, they don't, and I don't expect Angelus Press to do that.
Sure.
But they do give us a good discount, which I'm appreciative of.
Okay.
So pretty much all the books and calendars, and calendars are a great evangelization tool. In fact, I just received 100 calendars an hour ago from Angelus Press, and we're starting to get letters already here. Hey, I need my 2021 calendar. Send me my 2021 calendar.
That's great.
So they're great tools. Good holy religious pictures. Religious instruction. What's fasting, what's abstinence, that type of thing. All that included in the calendar. So for $7. Man, it's a great investment. So back to all this costs money. So pretty much everything we send out, when it comes to books and pamphlets and things like that, we do buy. Fortunately, all the people that are companies that supply us with things are cutting us a discount. So Angelus Press does. We buy the small confraternity books, Imitation of Christ, Daily Bread, Way of Life, etc. The confraternity has damaged books, and they sell them to us at half price. Tan Books gives us great discounts on books, and of course they have their $5 book sales. So the church history and the sacraments and the mass and things like that. So Bibles we get from Baronius Press, and they cut us a very healthy discount. There's a kind of a pocket-sized Douay Reims that is in very high demand. It's really funded by parishioners of St. Michael's. Fortunately, we've got the funds to be able to do that. We've probably invested probably more than $150,000 in books and calendars and religious materials over the years.
Wow!
So it's not inexpensive,
right?
But fortunately, we have the means to do it. We're blessed for that.
That's wonderful. I'd love to. I could chat with you probably for 2 hours now that we're getting into it. But there must be a story or two or an event or two that really sticks out in your mind as something that. And I know you're not doing this for the pat on the back, Mike, but it is nice to get it every now and then, or to get the reward sometimes. But is there a story that really kind of gave you the impetus to kind of keep going when you felt discouraged, or when you feel discouraged in any given day? Do you look back on one event or one story or one inmate in particular that kind of gives you that strength to keep going? Could you share a story with us on that?
Oh, sure. There's a young man. His name was Aaron. At the Preston Smith unit. He was probably had no religion whatsoever. His childhood was fraught with abuse, and he was incarcerated at a young age, probably 15, 16 years old, and he was in his late, probably 20s, early 30s. So his almost entire adult life had been behind bars. And the main coordinator there at the Smith unit, an offender, convinced Aaron to come to the class, to a Monday class. And Aaron said, you know what? I'll come, but there is just absolutely no way I'm going to become Catholic. And Frank said, hey, great, that's fine. Famous last words. I mean, you know what's coming.
Yeah.
So Aaron came. He's a bright young man, kept coming to our Monday classes. A few months later, he wants to be baptized.
Wow.
Father Katzaroff baptizes him there in prison in the Smith unit. Then a couple months, 2-3 months goes by, and guess who is serving the Latin Mass at the Smith unit? Aaron is one of the servers. So here you go from somebody that had no desire to discuss anything Catholic to now he was serving the Latin Mass in prison. So that's one of my favorite stories, of course.
Yeah. That's that's something that gives you goosebumps. I mean, and God's providence is astounding.
It is, which goes to show that really no case is hopeless. And of course, as Catholics, we should know that. We know it intellectually, right? Because that's what our faith teaches us. But to see it in practice is much different.
What would you say, Mike, to someone who says these guys, they're in prison, they're awful people, they've done terrible things? Why are you taking your time and dealing with them?
Father Katzaroff made a great analogy some years back, and it was about this time of year, November, month of the Holy Souls. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know what? The Holy Souls in purgatory, you have a lot in common with them, because many people forget the Holy Souls in purgatory, just like you're forgotten. Nobody does anything for them, just like nobody does anything for you. And, when we think of someone, either in purgatory or here on earth that's in prison, that really can effectively do nothing for themselves, and we look at our own situation, we have the freedoms that we do in this country. We can come and go pretty much at will. We're not under these restrictions. And then we think of those souls in purgatory and the men in prison, and that can't do anything for themselves, but we can. Again, we would be ungrateful for all the gifts that we've received personally. Yes. to do nothing. I understand not everybody's going to be called to do what I'm doing or Father Katzaroff is doing. I understand that, but people can do something, and if they take it to a greater level, that's that would be appreciated.
Wow, absolutely. I keep thinking during our conversation something my mom would always say: "There, but for the grace of God, go I." And I know that's a very common saying. It's not just unique to my mother, but truly there, but for the grace of God, go I. Yes, people have been convicted, and these are people who have done some bad things and been convicted correctly, and justice is being served. But the church teaches redemption, and God bless you for helping these gentlemen in their faith.
Well, they're searching for something, and we know. Like St. Augustine says, our hearts are restless until they rest in thee, O Lord. We know that God is the only thing that can fill us. And these guys, they've tried a lot of other stuff as well as we have too, to fill that to fill that hole. And then they finally realize that that's the only thing that's going to fill it, and they really become zealous for the truth and for the faith. There was one young man. He stole $44, like 5 5s and 19 1s. He told me this. Mm-hmm. $44 from a 7-Eleven to buy drugs for his mother, of all people. Mm-hmm. And of course, he was put in prison for that. It was unarmed. I'm not making any excuses for this young man at all, but a fairly minor thing. No weapon involved. Was continually denied parole. Wow. For this offense. Converted to Catholicism in prison, and he said, if I didn't come to prison, I would have not found the Catholic faith. He finally did see parole, was released from the Smith unit, went to Wichita Falls, started college classes, and one morning didn't wake up and passed away there in Wichita Falls. So,
yeah, wow. I don't know what to say on that story, but just wow. Well, let's move to some practical things. On the topic of helping or doing what you're doing, first I'll ask, what if someone who's listening to this in Oregon or California or Delaware is inspired and has some free time? And if anyone out there has free time, I'd love to know how they're doing it. And would like to do something like what you're doing. How would they do that? Is there a way to get involved, or would you recommend that people contact their local prison and see if they could start something like this? I'm sure you don't have like a guidebook or here's a plan, step 1, 2, 3 on how to start a prison apostolate. But do you have any advice?
Sure. You could say, for example, in Texas, I'll just use that because I know it. The organization in Texas is the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, TDCJ, and you would go to their website, and it has a specific tab for volunteer opportunities. And now that's not how I got started, but I became familiar with the website, of course, after becoming involved. And it lists the various things that you can do. Texas, for the most part, really encourages Christian involvement in the prisons because they know that it has positive results, and
Sure.
It hopefully decreases recidivism, and it makes the correctional officer's job somewhat easier.
So just from a temporal point of view, just from a purely practical point of view, they want this. Okay.
Sure. They do desire it to have volunteers come in and help out. So you can look on the website of your particular state and see something similar to that, and then be prepared to be patient and as you wind your way through the hierarchy of a government institution.
Sure.
So just a forewarning on that. Sometimes it goes smoothly, and sometimes it might take a year or two to get in.
And then on the topic of helping you specifically with what you're doing, if someone is listening to this and they want to help in some way, would you accept people sending you books? Maybe there's an old library that they have that they want to, pass along to some good use. Do you want that, or do you not want to deal with maybe a whole garage or living room full of products? Or can people donate directly to you?
Sure. And Andrew, you're a great straight man. I mean, you're anticipating every need here. We've had quite a few people do that very thing. Their mother or their grandmother or somebody they knew had a library of traditional books, and for whatever reason they didn't want them. We will gladly take them.
Okay.
So people have sent publications like the Angelus and Catholic Family News and old issues that they've already read. They send those. They send books, holy cards. Holy cards are a big one. There's a lady in Georgia that makes holy cards and puts prayers on the back of them, and she sends those to us. So holy cards are in big demand. I could give away everything we have when it comes to holy cards. Any good, solid, traditional Catholic book is welcomed. Some of the men request somebody to write to correspond with, and that is something that people could do. I mean, you can do it electronically. You don't have to handwrite out a letter. You can send them an email. If somebody wanted more information on how to do that, I'd be glad to give that to them. You have to be somewhat careful in corresponding, and age appropriate person corresponding with an offender, and keep some distance there. But that is a need also, that somebody that didn't really have a lot of financial wherewithal but had some time could correspond with offenders and answer some of their questions.
Wow, well, that's wonderful. We're not going to give out your phone number and email and address and all that stuff here while we're talking, but what we are going to do is post it on our website. So it'll be, so if you're listening to this maybe a year from now, it'll be at sspxpodcast.com. I'm sure you'd be happy to accept funds, but it's good to hear that if people have some extra books and items that you can help put those to some good secondary use as well.
We had a couple in with the society in New Jersey, send the Angelus $1,000 and say, hey, whatever Mike orders, take it against this $1,000. So that has worked out real well. And in fact, we used the last of that to buy the calendars that we just got today. So people can donate money, but we all get hit up for money all the time, and so I don't even make a big deal about that. I'd rather get books and holy cards and stuff like that, and I'll take money, but I'm not overly concerned about that.
Well, and I think also I'd like to encourage people listening to continue to pray for your apostolate as well, to make sure that you still have success with it, and that who knows, maybe laws can change in the next year. And I'm kind of being doom and gloom about this, but maybe laws change and you're not allowed to go into prisons. Who knows? Our listeners and all of us should definitely pray for your continued success, that you're able to continue doing what you're doing.
And I appreciate that, and that's one thing I've thought about, because we've been shut out since March, and really no end in sight. And again, that personal interaction, because I go into 3 different prisons: one in Lamesa, one in Snyder, Texas, and one in Fort Stockton, Texas. And the personal interaction is vital. Again, the books are great; they've got great information, but for men that are not used to reading, for men that don't want to discipline themselves to read, no excuses, but having having an interaction, even in a group setting, is vital. And really, this may kind of sound silly, but part of the reason to do that is because they need to see somebody that will follow up with what they said they would do. And if I say I'm going to be here next Monday at 5:00, and I show up next Monday at 5:00, and I do that for 10 years, they know that there's somebody that will keep their word, that is interested in them, and that is, again, not doing this for money or anything like that, but purely for their benefit. And a lot of these guys, that they haven't had anybody like that.
I was just going to say, for the majority of these men, even these young men, you mentioned a young Aaron who was put in prison at 16, maybe they've never had anyone in their lives who's kept their word to them before, and you can be that person. Even for some of these younger men, maybe even be sort of a father figure thing. I mean, it's just, that's so vital for anyone, both on the spiritual side and then also to be a successful human being when they get out.
Oh, exactly. And common factor, and it's got to be 70, 80, 90% probably of these men really they've got a biological father, but they don't really have a real father that was there for them. And I even had a guy my age, and I'm early 60s. He was my age, in telling me I was a father figure to him. And we're peers, Sure. It's kind of a scary thought, but again, they need to see somebody that will follow through with what they say they will do, and it will come.
Absolutely. Well, that's about the time we have for now. I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing, for taking the time to chat with us, and we'll be praying for your continued success. And again, if you want to help Mike and Father Katzaroff with what they're doing, again, go to sspxpodcast.com, find this episode, and you can find information there. Mike, you and I will chat a little bit afterwards and figure out the best way for people to support, whether it's sending things or letters or money if people want to. What you're doing is truly important work, and it's wonderful that you're one of the few people who's not forgetting about these souls.
Well, I appreciate that, Andrew, and I maybe like to leave it with a couple of thoughts here, because we get a lot of letters, and I excerpt certain passages from some of these letters, and here's one that kind of probably sums it up, and I'll quote from this letter we just got last month. The books St. Michael's has blessed all of us with through the years have enriched the lives of many. You truly do not understand how St. Michael's is contributing here on the unit. One of the gifted books easily touches 100 hands and hearts. Every year we easily welcome 10 to 20 brothers to the Catholic faith. That is much in part because of the Holy Ghost has stirred your hearts and helping us grow by good literature. I cannot teach them how to be moral men without having the books to study and read. St. Michael's is moving mountains in Kennedy, Texas.
Wow. Those are great words.
They are.
Mr. Mike Banschbach, thank you so much for the time, and thanks for all you're doing. And we look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Andrew.
Thank you for listening to this bonus episode of the SSPX podcast. I know we ask this at the end of every episode, but please consider sharing this episode so that Mike's good work can continue. And if you have extra books or items that could be of use to his apostolate, please click on the show notes on this episode to find out how to contact him. Or you can find out more information on our website, sspxpodcast.com. Finally, if you know of someone at your chapel or in your community who's doing some interesting or unique apostolate, please let us know. We'd love to share more of these stories. Until next time, thank you for listening, and God bless you.